With me I have Ninoslav Vangelovic, an independent filmmaker who for the last decade has been producing films on the human rights of minorities living in Kosovo. His work has been shown all around the world. Ninoslav, thank you very much for joining us here on Russia Today.
It's a pleasure.
Where did the idea for this work come from?
The essence of it has been an effort to document cases of severe human rights violation that was affecting and that has been affecting civilian population of Kosovo and Metohija, particularly Serbian and non-Albanian ethnic minority in Kosovo. To have it recorded as much as it can be recorded and brought to attention of whoever wants to see it.
You say that you were drawn to this work because you were hearing reports that people had gone missing. But how, in fact, did this information even come through?
Here in Belgrade, I would learn about that only occasionally, even though 1,300 people in such a short period of time had been kidnapped. Sometimes there were no photos of these people, of course, in the newspapers. Sometimes names and nothing much more, or maybe a location where they were seen last time. In 1998, I went down there and tried to collect some of the data and information from the family members, and that's how it all started, with hope that if we bring to the world attention really what's happening with these remote civilian, in these remote villages and regions of Kosovo and Metohija, maybe the suffering of people will cease.
From the data that you collected, what do you understand happened to these people? How did they go missing?
Well, you know, lots of them had been just kidnapped outside publicly, returning. Some people were returning from vacation, like a family was returning from vacation. They were stopped at the road and then just abducted like that. Or some guy would go out to buy diapers for his daughter and he never came back home. But at that time, that was like devastating for me, even though I did record these facts. It seemed like nobody really cared about it. The lack of media attention to what was really going on in Kosovo and Metohija is something that I think we can say made space for such terrible things to happen in the first place.
Who do you understand kidnapped these 1,300 non-Albanians, and why?
According to the people I talked to, most likely paramilitary troops, KLA troops, were the ones who were involved in this kidnapping process. But, you know, the thing is, not a single person came back alive from that we know, so that we can know that for sure.
What do people suspect happened to them?
We see that they have been killed and thrown. Now, there is legitimate concern that some of them had been used as to take organs from their body and killed later on.
How lucrative a business is the trafficking of human organs, and who's involved in it?
Well, now people say that, you know, I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what I read somewhere, that a human body is worth like million euros, like on a black market, like when you think of organs. If you have one body, so to say, worth €1,000,000, imagine 1,300 bodies or anything like that. And that brings another issue, like, I mean, I'm not saying that is something that we will know, but at least we must ask ourselves and we must look into that maybe lack of media coverage of these crimes and atrocities suffered by civilian population of Kosovo and Metohija is part of the reason why these things could have happened.
Why was there such a lack of media coverage then?
Because somehow politics in a certain way obscured certain issues, such as these atrocities suffered by the Serbian civilian population, because simply it was considered maybe politically incorrect to talk about suffering that Serbian and non-Albanian civilian population has experienced.
Politically incorrect by who? The Serbian authorities?
Well, I guess not by the Serbian authorities, but by the world media, if I can say. But the thing is, I'm more concerned, much more, the lack of interest shown by the Serbian media.
How do you explain that there was so little Serbian media interest?
There is no really explanation for me. I mean, I cannot explain that. But when I think about it, is because if Mr. Milosevic's regime wanted to show itself as in control of the region, as being powerful enough to protect Serbian interests in Kosovo that were jeopardized by, let's say, Albanian terrorists, then showing how ineffective basically Belgrade is in protecting people in Kosovo will undermine the message that he wanted to send. On the other hand, after Milosevic's regime was gone, the lack of interest in the problem that continued, suffering of Serbian and Albanian population, the lack of interest of Serbian media is something that really makes it hard for me to come up with any kind of explanation.
It's now 10 years later, and obviously Milosevic is no longer on the scene. But from what you seem to suggest, the issue of human rights of non-Albanians in Kosovo still remains an issue, and the media is still not interested in covering this. So how do you explain all of it?
Well, actually, the explanation is kind of hard word, but the thing is, other than maybe to doubt that maybe because the fact is that even in the presence of the international community, we do still have such a serious issue as lack of freedom and human right violation, that basically it was again politically incorrect by Belgrade regime to address that issue from that angle. Only 2 weeks ago we heard that an elderly couple a few kilometers from the border there in Kosovo have been killed, and people are guessing whether it's because they didn't sell their house. Tragedy of Kosovo from a political angle now is almost kind of in a way resolved. But what about this tragedy from a human angle, from a human point of view? What and how much do we really know about the fate of these people now? It is more important than ever, now especially that the ULEX is coming to Kosovo and that this mission is going to be present all over Kosovo. It's more important than ever to raise this issue of safety. And who is going to do it? So, for example, with the help of Greece and Russia, I hope that 3 of my films will soon be translated in 10 languages, 6 of which will be official UN languages, and in that sense this will be used to show how serious issue of safety has been in Kosovo.
These people are not safe from whom? The new Kosovo government or random acts of violence?
Random acts of violence. Or, for example, such numerous things, you know, like, I mean, lots of religious objects that have been destroyed have not been rebuilt yet. People have not returned to their houses or rebuilt their houses, hundreds of thousands of them.
It's all very well you talking about Greece and Russia, but why is the Serbian government today not doing enough to ensure their safety?
It is a hard question for me to explain. For example, right now, like I said, I'm in the process of trying to convince them to, after all these years, to at least these films that have been used, films that I produced and made, somehow help reach as many people in the world as it is possible. If Serbian government is not pressing this particular issue, and that is what will happen with people who still live there in Kosovo, non-Albanians, then who will?
Are you surprised with what happened regarding Kosovo, that the Serbian government did not put up more of a fight to prevent Kosovo from declaring independence?
I'm kind of surprised that the Serbian government has not developed this argument more. What matters to Serbia down in Kosovo are people. Ultimately, it's not about history, it is not about identity, it is not about religion, it's about loyalty to a fellow human being. By betraying them, and betrayal is if you don't talk about someone who's dying or who's been killed and who's yours, we are actually losing a ground to become civilized society here in Serbia. We must ask about them. They must be the number one thing in the mind of our politicians. Because if they are not, then what else is? And that's why I think we maybe failed so far as a country to convince the world what is it really that we are fighting for, because we have not stood together for these people.
Is this issue only about Kosovo, or is it an international issue?
International community arrived in Kosovo to stop killings and to create and to help create multi-ethnic society that's civilized. That's the measure that we will measure success of this international mission. Implementation of all these money, weaponry and political will. Is it going to result with better life for an ordinary citizen of Kosovo?
Ninoslav Vangelovic, thank you very much for talking to us here on Russia Today.